Hello, both of you. How are you? You're right.
Yes, hi Rebecca, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. What about you, Zinonas, in your 30 degrees in Cyprus that I'm not at all jealous about?
Hi, Rebecca. I'm very well. Well, it's October, but in Cyprus it's still like summer with 30 degrees. But
I'm
we are very well.
Yeah, I imagine you are very well. I'm sitting here in my jumper. I don't know what it's
Yeah.
like where Bethany is. The
Yeah,
heating's on now, so not great.
yeah.
Anyway,
Guernsey's pretty grey.
well, it's great to see you both, and I'm really glad to have you on the podcast today. So you have worked on a really interesting cross-border turnaround, restructuring, insolvency project, and you just going to take us through it today, which I'm really looking forward to because it sounds like such great collaboration between Nexia in the UK and Nexia in Cyprus, and I think it will show and demonstrate how you work together and how you get the best out of each other's expertise on a case like this. So, do you want to just start off by explaining what the funds were? Because it was the funds, wasn't it, that you were working on, and what was the structure? What was the business? Tell us all about it and set the scene.
Sure. So Leonard were appointed in late 2022 over two closed investment funds. They operated in the financial services sector, both specialised in investing in Russian businesses. So they invested in the Russian trading businesses, usually through Cypriot holding companies. So there was quite a structure behind the investments. And the funds had actually been trading for 20 years, quite successfully. But they've been in a sort of soft wind down since 2014 due to sort of geopolitical reasons. And then in sort of late in 2022, they ramped up the wind down and sought external liquidators to assist.
Oh, and why did they need to do it suddenly so quickly? What was going on for them that made that necessary?
I think the sort of ramping up of the geopolitical situation was quite a key driver in that. Obviously, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, European sanctions and UK sanctions became a lot more prevalent and a lot stronger. And they found that particularly at the Guernsey side, the sort of function of the funds was beginning to fall apart. You know, the banks were threatening to freeze the accounts, and the local directors here and the administrator were finding that they were quite paralysed in what they felt that they could do. But meanwhile, the funds still had active investments and limited partners that quite wanted their money back. And they also wanted their exposure to the region to come to an end. So it was felt that it needed to be sort of ramped up a little bit. And because the sort of paralysis at the local level, a third-party liquidator appointed through the court was sort of felt the best route to achieve that.
Right, and how did the job kick off once you were appointed as liquidators? Where'd you start?
Yeah, it was quite a complicated one because there's two funds that they're not necessarily connected, but they have limited partners in common. But none of the investments were the same. So we had to really quickly get to grips with what the investments were, the sort of structure through Cyprus and then into Russia. And most importantly, we had to try and fix the banking problem, because if you've got no access to your funds, you're a little bit stuck. So that was quite complicated. I think it took us 3 different banks before we could actually get one that functioned, because, you know, risk appetites being what they are, people were quite reticent to take on companies where there were Russian investments and there were funds flowing back from Russia. So it was quite challenging, and that was our main issue at the very beginning. And then we had to get on with getting the exits done, which hasn't been the quickest, but it's been very, very interesting for us.
Oh, I can imagine. It sounds interesting and a bit challenging, actually. So Nash, the collaboration with Cyprus was obviously essential because of where the funds were based. So what happened for you? How did you get involved, and what were the first aspects that you had to deal with?
Yeah. When Leonard communicated with us for this engagement, we assured them that we have the resources, the experience and expertise to assist them in this highly complex cross-border liquidation. Our team's purpose was to provide legal and other on-the-ground assistance to the liquidators on matters relating to the Cyprus assets.
When the administrator resigned and the existing administrator resigned, what happened then in this case?
A part of our work was managing communication with local service providers who were not very familiar with the liquidator's role and the fund's dissolution status. So what we did was to explain to them the role and the intended purpose of the liquidator in simple words, in the Greek language, which was easier for them to understand and made them feel more comfortable. And where the existing providers had resigned, we assisted the liquidators by identifying and proposing new local service providers so that the operational and governance status of the Cypriot companies is not affected.
Yeah, it's again, it sounds quite a big role for you as well in Cyprus.
It was very valuable for us because one of the main problems we had is a very annoying quirk of Guernsey law is that when a limited partnership is put into a sort of process like this, it's automatically called dissolved, which sounds like it's ended. So lots of the questions that sort of came back were like, well, who owns the assets now? Where have they gone? And it was trying to communicate that it's just worded in a very bad way.
Yes, because I wouldn't understand that as a business person. Yeah, that's what I would understand.
It caused quite a lot of panic, particularly at the Cypriot administrator level. We had, I think, Zinonas, maybe 10 different administrators involved at various companies, and they all sort of panicked and said, well, the funds don't exist anymore. And we said, no, they do, we promise. It's just a really annoying turn of phrase. So that was where Zinonas and his team were really helpful, because it was really difficult to try and communicate that, and especially when it's just a sort of a bit of a language barrier in terms of past tense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can really see that would be a problem. Big linguist, actually, by training myself, I can see how difficult that would be to explain without that local help. But you had a lot of stakeholders, Bethany, in this. So how did you manage all of them?
Well, it was quite a balance, really. We obviously had the limited partners who are, by and large, European institutional investors. So to all intents and purposes, the innocent parties that just really wanted their funds back as much as they could, and their exposure limited from a sort of governance perspective. Lots of them were struggling to have to declare this ownership of a fund which had investments in Russia going forwards. It's quite a headache for them. But alongside that, we had to sort of balance the speed that was desired with looking at the sanctions regime, and making sure that the exits that we were trying to do, because most of the purchasers for these assets are Russian. There's not much appetite to buy Russian or sort of minority stakes in Russian trading businesses in Europe or in America. So they were Russian purchasers, and then it's trying to negotiate the sanctions regime, not only in Guernsey, which follows the UK, but also in Cyprus, because that's where the shares are held. So that's where, again, Zinonas and his team were really valuable, because we had to balance those two. And whilst they're similar, they're not the same. And we definitely needed that professional advice to help us balance the sort of need to exit, but also to do it properly and to make sure we didn't fall foul of any regulations anywhere.
Yes, you've got a lot of regulations cross-border, haven't you, to juggle together. So, Zinonas, what other problems did you encounter? I mean, obviously there was the sanctions. Were there other problems that were particularly difficult for you?
Yeah. After the war in the Ukraine, when we are dealing with Russian assets, sanctions are always a risk and make the liquidators work more difficult. So to ensure compliance with these sanctions regimes, specialist advice was requested, and our team in Cyprus advised the liquidators on the Cyprus-related sanctions complications, which is what Bethany previously mentioned.
Yeah, so I don't think I'd want to be dealing with all those sanctions rather than you than me. So you also found a portfolio company that had no governance and wasn't filing its taxes either. Great. What did you do with that? How did you go about dealing with it?
Yeah. There was a portfolio company that had zero value to the liquidators. And so our job was to assist Leonard Curtis with the practical steps that are required to formally disclaim ownership in this company. So that company, yes, it didn't have the governance, it didn't have activities, and it had very poor records. So what we did was we communicated and met with the former administrators of that company, had collected information, and then we have met with the governmental authorities, the registrar of companies, the insolvency service, and achieved placing this company into liquidation so that ownership is disclaimed.
Yeah, it sounds quite. I mean, do you often do that, or have these sorts of issues?
Yeah, this is not very usual, but
Yeah,
when you are appointed as liquidator, you want to clear the affairs of the company. So sometimes this is part of your work to
yeah,
disclaim ownership in zero value assets.
Yes.
yeah. So you're working together. And obviously, you know, sometimes people say, well, how well can you work when you're different firms? And, you know, sometimes this gets questioned when you're working across border. How did you collaborate so well together? Because you demonstrated how well it can be done. So, and how smooth that sort of working environment can be. So what do you think was the secret behind making it work so beautifully between the two of you?
I think for us, it was being able to communicate with Zinonas and his team, and they understood what we were trying to achieve, most importantly. I think that's where the benefit was really felt at our side. It was because sometimes people don't necessarily understand the role of a liquidator or how we've come to be appointed or how we can come to be in charge of these funds now. And having somebody that just immediately understood the appointment and how it worked and what we were trying to achieve was valuable because it cut out so much time, so much back and forth. You know, we were able to just say, guys, we've been appointed and we need your help with this. And they were fantastic, off we went. There was we didn't have to sort of explain too much about the background of the sort of appointment or how it came to be, or explain liquidators' roles and obligations and duties, because they understood it all. So it was really helpful for us.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I know from my past, my distant past in big firms, sometimes firms in different countries don't work that well together. So, seeing you guys come together so well, it's really good to see. What did you feel were the real benefits of that relationship for both of you? I mean, did you learn from each other as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think Zinonas probably learned that Guernsey is very strange in its laws, especially the way it phrases things. But I think it was just really great to have that sort of immediate understanding with each other. And we learned a lot about Cypriot law, Cypriot companies, and it now transpires it's quite a common structure to hold previously invested Russian assets through Cyprus. It was quite a common thing. So we've actually seen it on other cases, and we've been able to apply that knowledge that we've learned from Zinonas to other cases, because Cyprus has quite particular ways of doing things. You're not allowed to upset the tax office. We learned that early on. They get very upset.
Yes, never good to upset the tax guys.
Yes. So being able to communicate with them through Zinonas was very helpful as well. So working together and having Zinonas and his team understand where we're coming from really helped cut down on time and particularly cost for the stakeholders of the funds, because we were able to communicate so effectively.
And I suppose you had the relationships with them, didn't you, in Cyprus too, Zinonas?
Yeah. I must admit that the collaboration with Leonard Curtis was excellent. So in my view, the key points to that were the clear communication between Bethany and her team, as well as the mutual respect between the two teams, helped us both stay aligned and be productive. So it was a truly rewarding experience for us, having this opportunity to work with Leonard Curtis in this highly complex cross-border liquidation.
That's excellent. It's really good. And you had a great result. I mean, you got what you wanted as well, didn't you? You returned over 21 million euros to investors. So I'm sure I was on that investor list, you know. I wish. So how did you manage that? How did you get such a great result for people?
Well, we're still not done, actually. We still hope to return a bit more. We've got a few more assets that we have to finalise the exit, and also, as Zinonas said earlier, we've got a few zero value assets we have to disclaim. But I think we also had the assistance of the incumbent asset management team that were there to help us, and we were just quite methodical about approaching each asset. Each asset had a problem, obviously, and each one required sanctions advice, usually an approach to our local Policy and Resources Committee, which is our sanctions governance arm of the government here. So there's been a lot of lawyers in lots of jurisdictions, and we're very fortunate that we got the limited partners on board with our plan quite early on. They were quite happy with how we were progressing, and actually seeing some flow of funds. We got our first distribution out, I think, within a year, which for funds that had been completely paralysed for quite a number of years was a really good result for them. So it was a sort of proof of concept for us, and then we sort of carried on and got the rest of the assets sold, or well, almost all of them. We're still going, but it was very challenging, but we're really pleased with the result.
Yeah, I should think you are. I mean, it's a great result from working together so well. And Zinonas, what do you think was the real secret behind your success in this case?
The real secret, I think, was the very good collaboration, the clear communication, and then, as I said, the mutual respect between the two teams. These were the secrets in this success, in making this project as successful.
Well, it's been really interesting to talk to you about this case, and thank you so much for your time. If you had any advice to give to other firms within the Nexia network looking to collaborate, what would you say to them?
Call Zinonas. Read everything in Cyprus.
Well, it's been great to talk to you, and I hopefully see you again soon.
Nice to speak to you.